So guys, how can you explain this? That a sitting president came out to say that he is happy seeing other opposition parties in disarray, and he's boldly saying it during a democracy speech that he delivered, in the House of Rep. So guys, this country is gone. I don't even think if people understand the weight of what the sitting president said, that he's happy seeing other political parties in disarray. I mean, that statement alone is very weighty. It's very, very weighty. And now, Nigerians have been wondering, 2 years in power, people cannot relate. When they come out to tell us that Tinubu's reform is doing this, Tinubu's reform is the best thing, we are still waiting to see that reflecting, in the life of an ordinary Nigerian. People are crying. School fees have spiked, electricity tariff spiked, telecom tariff spiked. Look at transportation. People cannot even, afford just basic meals to eat. Then you talk about insecurity in the country. Don't even go that area. I don't know if you have heard of what is happening in Imo State. In Imo State, I mean, these terror headers, they will just stop vehicles in a broad daylight and take passengers into the bush and begin to put knives on their neck. Can you imagine that? That is what people are experiencing under the Tinubu's leadership. And they are coming out to convince Nigerians that all is well in this country. All is well with this level of insecurity. So guys, you don't even need to go far to see the failure of this government. I'm just going to allow you to take a look at some of the reactions Nigerians are reacting, on Tinubu's achievements, and also on this statement that he has made about saying that he is happy seeing other parties in disarray. Even Senator Dixon could not take it. Senator Dixon has come out to tell Tinubu, saying you destroyed democracy in Rivers State. Even if you are saying that you are not the one sponsoring, all the disarray in parties, but guess what? You have destroyed democracy in Rivers State, and today you are talking about upholding the values of democracy. So guys, take your time, watch these videos, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.
Political parties fearful of members leaving may be better served by examining their internal processes and affairs rather than fearfully conjuring up demons that do not exist. For me, I will not say try your best to put your house in order. I will not help you to do so either. It is indeed a pleasure to witness you in such a disarray.
If you have a military administration in the midst of a democracy that we are celebrating today, of all days, why did the president and the Senate president choose today, being Democracy Day in Nigeria, to read those undemocratic and unconstitutional and illegal communications to the National Assembly? I will not even bother to take constructive objections and concerns. Well, that tells you how the APC has reduced Nigeria's democracy to. I take very strong objections to that. And listening to the president's very flowery, otherwise impressive speech, let me say this. It's a good thing to make beautiful declarations of principles and show democratic commitment. Words don't show democratic commitment. What matters is actions and actions. But you cannot be celebrating democracy. You cannot be flaunting yourself as a Democrat on the one hand, and on the other hand, be trampling democracy under your big presidential foot in Rivers State. The president missed a golden opportunity to raise and deepen democracy in Nigeria by restoring on today's Democracy Day democratic and normal civil constitutional rule in Rivers State. Of all the things the president said, the president was silent about Rivers State. And today is about democracy. Today is not about repression. Today is not about suppression of the views of the people of Rivers State. Today is about respecting and upholding the democratic rights under the Constitution and the laws. These issues that some of us feel passionate about, it's not because of Fubara's nationality. It's not about Fubara's party, if he has any. And these days, you can't even be sure which party people belong to. So I am disappointed. Firstly, that the president never said a word about the undemocratic developments in Rivers State, which he has enabled, which he has brought about, which he has sanctioned, and which he continues to sustain. And creating an impression as if all is well. No. As long as any part of Nigeria is under military rule, democracy is endangered in Nigeria as a whole.
It has never been this bad to see a people preparing for election and they are leaving you with the thought and idea that they are going to rig the election. It has never been this bad. It has never been this terrible. That a people preparing for elections, nobody, 90% of people supporting Bola Ahmed Tinubu are supporting him, and that they are confident that he will retain his seat as president of Nigeria in 2027, not because he has developed the country, not because he has put in effort, not because he has shown any form of leadership commitment in any regard. It's because he has the capability or capacity to rig his way to power. And Nigerians will prove to a man like that and the people like that you cannot take the mass of the people for a ride. Nigerians will deal with Bola Ahmed Tinubu and deal with his followers that believes that rigging their way to power, to retaining power, rather than developing, growing, investing in critical infrastructures in the country and making Nigeria habitable for people to live first, would have been the priority of this government, but he chose to do the direct opposite. And guess what? Let me tell you, the greatest undoing of Bola Ahmed Tinubu would be that he prioritized propaganda, deception, and lies over growth and development of this country and investing in very critical sector, especially in the human capital. Forget all these dramas you are seeing, all of this nonsense. It has never been this bad. You were watching the clip of the inauguration or the commissioning of, I like to call it inauguration because I don't know what they went to do, of the 30-kilometer disjointed road that they said they commissioned in Lagos, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. You heard the sitting president telling the deputy governor, because the governor was not on seat, that they will no longer allow approvals for estates and islands anywhere. That is the sitting president detonating the power. If you go and read the Land Use Act, it's an act of this country. It empowers sitting governors and sitting government to own the land of the country. But a sitting president thinks that, of course, he owns Lagos. Lagos is in the pocket, anything he likes. But let's get into the real deal. The 3 reasons why Bola Ahmed Tinubu won or was declared to have won 2023 elections. The 3 reasons. Number 1 is that Nigerians believed in INEC and the electoral process.
I would be faithful.
President Bola Tinubu promised a renewed hope agenda for Nigeria. But 2 years into his administration, the hope has been tested by harsh economic realities. From the removal of fuel subsidies to the floating of the naira, the impact has been deeply felt across the economy, leading to high inflation and cost of living. Despite the hardship, the government says some macroeconomic indicators show early signs of stabilization.
Under the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think all agree that in 2024, the economy has made significant progress. And let me say that at the base of it all has been a recovery and an improvement in the security situation in Nigeria. That lays the basis for all else.
For many Nigerians, there is a widening gap between economic policies of the Tinubu administration and the realities faced by the populace as persistent inflation continues to constrain household consumption and limit disposable income.
There is no flow. The cash is not flowing. The economy is slow. The reform, we are not seeing the impact of the reform. The reform does not have any much impact. So he should think, maybe rearrange the remaining 2 years and see. If not so, we will not vote him again.
You just be as if they dig us for inside hole every blessed day. You no get any the way you go come market, where you go sell better market. And as a family woman where you be, or as a family man where you be, the little way you don't sell, carry go house. Children must shop. Children must transport, go school. All those things, before you know what that happen, even the small money where you gather, you don't put for inside your shop, you don't they go down because markets no day. People are crying, people are suffering everywhere.
But now inflation is coming down gradually. Before, a bag of rice was around 90,000, but now I just heard it's around 69,000-70,000 naira. So at least that is supposed to also impact on demands and supply.
Okay, nothing like inflation where they come down. No make I tell you now, normal something where they happen be that. By this time rice they come down because people where they go farm, they go farm. Very soon now, in the next 2 months, come back now, rice don't go back to 100,000 naira. Now because I say farmers they go farm now, at least some people will get the courage to enter farm where this where they call them herdsmen no go destroy their things. They plant. They see things they bring out now, they see small. So nothing like inflation where they come, nothing they'll call that.
The impact of these reforms is also felt across other sectors of the economy, including the transport and the electricity sector. While the cost of transportation has doubled, electricity tariffs have surged due to a subsidy cut. Even small businesses are struggling with higher input costs and shrinking consumer demand.
Things are not going well. As you can see now, you can see the market is very dry. You understand? People are not entering the market because of the cost of things, the way things cost inside market.
Going from Maitama to Lugbe, you spend at least you spend at least 700. Before, from here to Lugbe, at least 300 naira, 400 will take you to Lugbe. Then coming, it's more expensive coming because you have to drop in jet secretariat. Then you continue to Maitama. You spend close to 1-2.
It has not been easy, and you check some motorists now in order to meet up with the demand. They try to carry 2 passengers in front just to augment.
A major focus of the Tinubu administration has been the MSME sector, which is critical for job creation and poverty reduction. The government over time unveiled a 125 billion naira plan to empower nano and small businesses through grants and low-interest loans, and another 75 billion naira for the manufacturing sector, an initiative that aims to increase access to capital and boost industrial growth. Despite this effort, challenges remain. Officials say the long-term impact outweighs the short-term measure.
What we are looking at is growing our way out of the deficit, growing our way out of relatively elevated debt levels. Of course, on inflation, we all acknowledge that there's a way to go, but the signal and the direction of travel is that inflation is expected to fall.
The economy under President Tinubu seems to have witnessed some level of progress. According to NBS figures, the nation's real GDP expanded by 3.84% year-on-year in the fourth quarter of 2024 from the 3.46% growth recorded in both fourth quarter of 2023 and the third quarter of 2024. While the exchange rate has improved, falling from about 2,000 naira in 2023 to a benchmark of around 1,600 naira in May 2025, the monetary policy now hovers around 27.5%. The World Bank, while acknowledging Nigeria's progress in its recent report, however, cautions that high prices and poverty remain a critical concern.
The fiscal position is much improved on the back of a surge in Federation revenues. Now, needless to say, the war is not won. Many challenges remain. Inflation has remained high and sticky, and it will be crucial for the CBN to stay the course with tight monetary policy to anchor stability. But if it does so, as we anticipate it will, we expect that inflation will fall to an annual average of just over 22%.
Although the Nigerian economy may be showing some signs of resilience and recovery, inflation, however, remains a clog in the wheel of progress. Excitedly, Nigeria's Consumer Price Index headline inflation declined to 23.71% in April 2025, down significantly from its peak of 34.8% in December 2024, following the rebasing policy. Despite this significant decline, the cost of goods and services remain elevated, even 5 months after the rebasing.
Few commodities that are still, same, but rice particularly has dropped from about 90,000 to 69,000.
Are you eating only rice? Do you think rice alone will count? What happened to the oil? What happened to the beef? What happened to fish? The protein? We need this protein more than the rice.
The fuel issue of it really affect us, affect our business. Passengers don't used to follow us. Even at the end of the day, the little ones that you will carry, you still end up spending everything on fuel.
So it's very costly in the market, especially somebody like me. So you doesn't have to buy the one way you support to buy in the market because they one kind.
The central bank is resolute and committed to continuing to fight the war against inflation. There's no going back on that. And as I have said at previous fora, we are going to deploy everything in our arsenal.
With GDP on the rise, inflation cooling, and the naira gaining traction, financial experts say Nigeria's economic outlook remains cautiously optimistic.
Central Bank increased the MPR rate by 8.75%. From 18.75% to about 27.5% last year. So all this, one would say that central bank is playing its role, but it's contending with other factors. Most of it structural deficiency in the economy, as well as part of the fallout, or we call spillover from fiscal authorities' actions.
While inflation is gradually slowing following the rebasing of the Consumer Price Index, however, there seems to be a disconnect with the NBS figures and the actual market price. Perhaps the big dilemma before President Tinubu as he enters his 3rd year is how he intends to balance the immediate impact of his economic reforms and the long-term benefits. But for now, most Nigerians...
Looking back in the last 25 years, we've seen a lot of things. But what we're seeing on the table today, I think some of the contradictions everybody is complaining about were all foreseen. Now, going to the speech before I come back to this, he touched on key issues. He honored some Nigerians. Some of them, the honor has been long overdue. People in particular like Kudirat, Humphrey Wosu, among others. That is one. As for the comment on one-party state, I think there are distinctions we need to make. When you set up a political party, that party is supposed to be made up of people who share the same ideology. So destabilization forces from outside can only arise out of several considerations. One, lack of internal cohesion. Two, desperation for power without a focus on what to do with power, etc. So if you say, let's even assume that it's true that they're striving for a one-party state. In every political party, you also have internal wranglings, such that sometimes when you say a party is in power, it's actually one division of the party that's in power. Now, the speech, Democracy Day. What really is Democracy Day? The day Abiola won an election or the day of the annulment? No. That election was the vote of confidence of Nigerians. As Nigerians. The two candidates were Muslims. Abiola got votes from all over the federation. His opponent, chief opponent, Tofa, lost in his own area. And so we're not celebrating the fact that there was an election, but that on that day of the election, with the result of that election, Nigerians remembered or thought of themselves as Nigerians. They voted for a man they believed is a Nigerian who would be in their interest. Nobody thought of where he came from. Nobody thought of any other thing other than, let's go and choose a man we want to be our president. And when you also talk about the annulment, let's not make the mistake of forgetting that it was a few individuals who held certain perspectives about the candidate himself that drove the annulment. The other element that's usually overlooked is we don't ever stop to ask ourselves, to what extent did Abiola himself contribute to the annulment? But these are matters, if you like us to take on, because we must explore all the issues connected with it. There are internal dynamics that contributed to that annulment from the perspective of, one, his relationship with the military, two, his temperament, three, his interventions in the international space. But I don't know whether you have time for that, because that brings the core, that will bring out the question of how come it became irreversible, either from internal, external, international pressure or from anywhere. There are interests that felt the need to sustain that annulment. So let's not keep pretending that it was those in power, just one or two individuals. No, it could have been reversed. If not that the interests against it were dominant. But it was not the interest of Nigerians.
Interesting perspective there, Professor Ikechukwu. Let me bring in Mahmoud Jega into the conversation. Mahmoud Jega, it was a 45 minutes long speech by the president today. How would you assess the core message of the president? Did it strike the right tone and balance between celebration and accountability? What did you make of the speech?
I think the most important elements in the president's address were, in particular, his pledge that he will not walk towards a one-party state, even though he qualified that by saying it will amount to malpractice if the APC were to shut its doors to those who want to come in. And he did say, a bit jokingly, that he is not unhappy if there is chaos in the opposition parties. That is okay. I mean, it is not his responsibility to prop up the opposition parties. And very importantly for this time, he also said that he is not the one who is stopping INEC from registering new political parties. That is very important because it's one of the topical issues today, that we had 100 applications, and so far the Electoral Commission has not taken steps to register a new party, which will help the opposition, especially the coalition they are planning to come together. Otherwise, most of the rest of the speech, he reeled out the major thrust of the administration, and also all those honors that he awarded to those who fought in the June 12th struggle. So on the whole, it was a good speech, I believe. It didn't cause much stir anywhere. And those two assurances that he gave, I hope we will begin to see them in real practice.
Let me bring it back to you, Prof. Still on the president's speech. He says, let me quote him, "I am happy the opposition is in disarray." On a democracy day, would you say is the time and the place, to make such statements? I mean, how much weight does that even carry? And on the issue of democracy, Nigeria's democracy so far, would you say there are more of accidental heroes? Because I saw a piece that talked about, Nigeria's democracy without Democrats. See how you can unpack all of this.
Well, the first question about the president being happy that the opposition is in disarray. You see, the democratic enterprise requires you to make a case for yourself, gather members based on an ideology, and take steps to sustain yourself. It is in the democratic spirit to say that I'm happy the opposition is in disarray. It boils down to the fact that you're not putting yourself together sufficiently and strongly enough to give me a good fight. Clearly, I'm glad Mahmoud used the humorous expression that it will be a malpractice. So, you see, the purpose of an opposition is not to help the government in power to succeed or to look good. The business of a government in power is to endeavor that it remains in power. Therefore, is a constant and continuous contestation over which you cannot begin to moralize that, if he's putting you in disarray, what's your capacity? What's the level of cohesion? How much conviction do your members have? Those are the issues to put on the table. The opposition is, okay, what would you say? Now, the opposition has also been given press releases over time, pointing out certain things he doesn't agree with. If I'm in opposition and you say, hey, you're hitting the government too hard, I will tell you it's my business to hit the government. So I see nothing. I think we should take that in good taste, laugh about it, but actually factually correct. It's not the business of one party to help another to win an election when he has interest in that election. That's the other thing on the table. There was the other second point you raised.
Yes.
About, I'm sure I lost that.
I lost it too, but yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, I was asking whether it's the right, time and place for that, but I think you've already addressed.
All right, so back
that.
to Mahmoud Jega. What was missing in that speech for you? And I asked because we are beginning to see reactions. For instance, Senator Seriake Dixon says it was a missed golden opportunity for the president not to mention Rivers State, where he had declared a state of emergency earlier in the year. I mean, if you're marking Democracy Day, then that tipping point in Rivers State and emergency rule should have been mentioned today. I wonder what you think of that. Also, the president said he's not here to make anybody happy politically, and he welcomed public criticism. But is that a mark of confidence, or does it risk sounding dismissive to public frustrations and the voices of dissent?
Honestly, I think Senator Dixon was right, because the most controversial thing that happened in the democratic journey in the last 2 years, and probably, in fact, in the last decade or more, was the imposition of the state of emergency in Rivers State and the suspension of the governor and the state assembly. We haven't probably had the last of that issue, because some PDP-controlled states took the matter to the Supreme Court. I'm personally surprised that the Supreme Court did not accelerate hearing on that matter, because there are grave constitutional issues involved in that. And I agree, as I said, with Senator Dixon, that when we are celebrating the Democratic March and saying all the achievements and the gains, honestly, it would have been important to say something about that particular episode. Probably try to justify it in one way or another, because it was probably the biggest blotch on the democratic journey so far.
And what did you think was missing in this in the speech for you? I also asked you about when the president expresses confidence to say, I'm not here to make you happy. After all, he doesn't sell ice cream. We must speak the fact. He's not here to make you happy. But do you think that could be misconstrued by critics and opposition who feel that he must also take into cognizance the voices of dissent?
I cannot remember that particular statement, but obviously it is the responsibility of the administration to make the citizens that elected it as happy as possible. We understand that certain difficult measures, socio-economic policy measures that are taken might be painful, and but really, I mean, the bottom line is if citizens are not happy with the policies of the administration, then the chances are that they will throw it out in the next election. So I don't know whether that was the context in which the president put it, but definitely it should be the aim of the administration to make citizens as happy as possible.
Okay, Prof, before we wrap, I mean, speaking of, the voters and making citizens happy, let's talk about the kernel of democracy, the electoral process, the welfare of the people, and of course, the fact that democracy should deliver on good governance, justice, and development. Needless to ask, how we fared on those scores. How can we deepen, number one, the electoral process, and ensure that truly this democracy gives us the dividends, the much talked about dividends of democracy?
Before you talk about deepening the electoral process, we must also talk about deepening the political process. The steps political parties can take in this regard is to actually begin to function at the right levels. Since after the election, I don't think you've heard of any party having a rally. You've not heard of regular meetings. So specific suggestions in this regard. At the ward level, parties should cause their ward leadership to meet with the members, move it to the council, move on to local government, such that you have party activities at all times. It will drive membership, Also, it will also drive understanding of democracy, because sometimes when we speak of dividends of democracy, people are thinking, if you like, stomach infrastructure. And I want to recontextualize the notion of making people happy.
Right.
That is not to express support one way or another for what the president has said, but my understanding is that there's a difference between what you need and what you desire and what you want. All of us are parents. If in the morning on a Monday the child is dropped off for school, the child wants to stay and watch Tom and Jerry in the house, the parent knows the child needs to go to school.
Right.
So sometimes policies, nasty policies, are needs. And so when we speak of making the people happy in very general terms, it also could detract from the seriousness of the purpose of governance itself, which is not to say that things are well. No, there are security issues, there's hunger in the land, the cost, the level of living is very high. But I want our conversations to operate at the level of what is it that needs to be done, rather than what is it that the people will be excited about. Secondly, or thirdly, and lastly, when you look at where we are, how we've traveled up to this point, you spoke of emergency leaders. As a matter of fact, but for irregularities in the general Nigerian political process, many people will not be in leadership positions today. Many people will not be in the National Assembly. Many of them will not be governors. So you cannot pretend that people who, flew in when everybody was drugged should suddenly receive applause. Yeah, they are getting honors and all of that, but that element must not be must not be forgotten. That yes, there are emergency heroes. There are heroes who arose because the processes were irregular, and these will eventually, with time, pass away.
All right, we'll have to say thank you very much. Professor Ikechukwu is leadership and governance consultant joining us on Newsnet. And Mahmoud Jegai, Arise analyst. Thank you, both of you.
So guys, you can see that this government is really a failure. And for them to be able to cover their failure, they want other political parties to join them. I mean other politicians from opposition parties. Tinubu has come out to say that he is enjoying seeing other opposition parties in disarray. That statement alone is very weighty. I mean, it's very weighty for a sitting president to come out to say that he is happy seeing opposition in disarray. That is just to tell you how desperate these leaders are, if indeed they are leaders. That is how desperate they are, that you are saying that you are very, very comfortable seeing other opposition parties in disarray. See, if it was to be an ordinary man who made this statement, I tell you, the person would have gone for it. Because this is not something that's what's being said by any right-thinking human being, You just come out to say you are happy seeing other parties in disarray. And people were cheering you up. They were clapping. APC leaders were clapping. That people are defecting and joining their party. They want Nigeria to be a one-party system, which Tinubu has come out to deny. That's not what he's trying to do. But your action speaks louder than your voice. Your action is speaking that is where you are directing Nigeria to. And it will be in record that it was only during your regime that you tried forcing Nigeria to go into one-party system. Because you are not comfortable with people working against you, seeing that you have failed Nigerians. So guys, a whole lot is happening and people have been reacting, on what Tinubu said. Let me read some of these reactions. This person said Tinubu's confident to win 2027 election is to rig it and cause violence, but Nigerians will resist him. This is Mr. Common Sense speaking. I'm just going to, read out some of the reactions. The guy posted a video here and this one said, I agree with the last statement. Nigerians believe INEC was going to keep to their word, but INEC disappointed Nigerians. But this time it will never be so. Nobody will believe INEC again. We will go aura for aura. Nobody is going to believe INEC again. This person say bomber to bomber. Nobody wants to believe INEC. INEC has failed Nigerians. Nobody wants to believe INEC again because of all what they said in the last election. This person say Tinubu will beat any politician stand down without campaigning. Who be Obi? You will get to know Obi when the time comes. This person say May we not be on the willing side. Tinubu go beat PO. This weary feed no get PVC. This person, nobody will vote for him, so he has to rig. Nobody will vote for him, so he has to rig. See, left for Tinubu is all about rigging. Some people have said Peter Obi shouldn't just worry. With somebody like Tinubu, how does Peter Obi expect to win? Let's go to that battlefield. We cannot underestimate. This was how they underestimated Peter Obi. They said it was just two people tweeting in a room, and then it now turned out to become a massive movement. You know, and then this person say you are supporting Peter Obi, who doesn't believe in development or growing, but just saving the money in the bank. You people are just clown. This person say this could have been the most celebrated second term, but the man wasn't ready to repent. He had a chance to sit up with exemplary governance after stealing our vote, but he had to transform an Olosho who is staring in front our largest pool as anyway. He's just talking about Tinubu, that even though Tinubu stole the mandate, he had the opportunity to have performed better than what he is doing today. But he's not doing that. Like Nigerians are already lamenting that the hardship is much. People cannot even pay school fees. You know, students in Nigeria are struggling. Many students who are on scholarship outside the country, they are struggling to pay their school fees. A whole lot is happening under the Tinubu's government. I just hope that this 2027 presidential election, God will wipe the tears of Nigerians. Peter Obi won't see Tinubu. That will be our prayer. That will be the action, and we are going to get there. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Thank you.